All right, so obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder are headed to the Western Conference Finals. Very ironic to know that the last time they were in the Western Conference Finals back in 2016, after they lost that series against Golden State, that is what completely turned the tide for the franchise. That ended the Kevin Durant era. There were some years where they were just decent enough with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, their best players. And then after that, they kind of went into this soft rebuild, reboot mode. And here they are again back at this level. So again, this really full circle moment for them to be back in the Western Conference Finals with this new group. And that was all set up by Kevin Durant leaving in 2016. One thing I'm going to say here about this OKC squad that I think is very interesting. I think this is like the model rebuild. If you're looking at this team and how they've built things up over the years, they're moving through the draft, right? So you go and pick up Lou Dort and Jalen Williams, and just a few seasons ago, Chet Holmgren. They did end up picking up Shai from the Clippers in that massive trade that included Paul George. But still, you get this really young guy coming off of his rookie season, and they have just developed and cultivated this talent over the years. And there is this gradual progression season in and season out. They start off with the play-in tournament appearance. Then they move into a second round appearance just last season. And here they are headed to the Western Conference Finals. It is like the most ideal form of a rebuild you would ever see. And even if they lose in this series here against the Timberwolves, which I think is going to be a very, very fun series, I'm going to talk about it a little bit in a second. But even if they lose, you still can sit back and know they have shown this amazing progression season in and season out. You can only hope and put money on the idea that they'll only get better next season. I'm not trying to rewrite them or write them off too early here before the series even starts, but that's just something to keep in mind. Even if they do lose, and even if that ends up happening, you can still look back and see this thing as a work in progress, see this thing as a success. They have built this thing almost from the ground up, and they have built it and progressed at a very high level each and every season. And I was thinking about this today in this game as well. I love when a trade ages very well, right? And especially if we knew the trade was going to work when it originally happened. Because there are going to be some trades where it looks great on paper, and then when you're watching the results of it throughout the season, sometimes it's underwhelming. The pickup of Alex Caruso, when they moved away Josh Giddey over to Chicago to bring him back, it has been flawless, right? We knew from the beginning that his defensive impact was going to be huge. Then we fast forward to a game 7 against the Denver Nuggets, one of the most dynamic offenses in all of basketball. And Alex Caruso is the guy for this team on the defensive side of the floor. Did an amazing job on Nikola Jokic in this game. Just flat out great stuff on the defensive end, not just from him, but from this team as a whole. But when you're looking at him individually, it's just great knowing that a trade aged very well. And our predictions about the trade turned out to be just how we expected them to be. It reminds me a bit of when the Wizards went and got Paul Pierce back a few seasons ago, right? And he made this game winner in the first round for the team. And I remember like the post-game interview, he was saying, that's why they got me here, right? Where you have this thing where a player comes over and he gives the value that you wanted him to provide, right? You went and traded him for this particular thing, and he provides it at a high level. That's exactly what I was reminded of when I'm looking at what Alex Caruso is doing defensively for OKC. You went out to get another elite defensive stopper, one of the best defensive stoppers in all of basketball, especially at the guard position, can guard multiple positions, even if undersized, and we just saw that here today, brings that value just like you thought he would when you made that move early in the summer. So yeah, I think the series between OKC and Minnesota is going to be very fun. I actually preferred this series a little bit more than seeing the Nuggets match up against the Timberwolves, and I thought that would have been fun as well. But I think one thing that makes the playoffs interesting, or makes a playoff series in particular interesting, is having elite level matchups, right? Where you're having players at similar positions going head to head. It's cool seeing Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic as the two marquee players in a series. I don't mind that, but it's more interesting seeing Anthony Edwards matched up with a player that plays a very similar position as him, right? And obviously SG and Anthony Edwards are two completely different players, but they're still amazing one-on-one players, amazing scorers, two guys who can go get 35 to 40 on any given night. Seeing them match up and having those similarities similarities in their game, I think it makes for a very fun dynamic in the playoffs. And that's the same thing you can say about the Pacers and Knicks series, right? Where you have two elite level point guards in Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson going at it against one another, right? So one thing that's really good about this set of conference finals games is that you're getting these elite player matchups that could set up these possible classic duels once those series get started. Moving on here to Denver, I had a few thoughts about them and where they're at right now heading into the offseason. They're just, again, adding to this trend of teams that were able to win a championship but weren't able to repeat that success. That has been a massive trend since 2019, right? Where you're having these teams win a title, establish themselves as the best team in the NBA. Then when it comes to defend that title, they just simply cannot do it, right? And you're looking at this Nugget squad in 2023, they reached this amazing peak and win a championship. And there was a lot of reason to believe they were going to repeat that success. They had amazing depth. They had amazing talent around Nikola Jokic, great shot makers like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., great utility guys like Aaron Gordon. There were legitimate reasons to believe that the Nuggets were the next up potential dynasty. They had the best player in the NBA. In my opinion, Jokic has been the best player in basketball since 2022, 2023. But they have not been able to repeat that success, and this is yet another season after them winning that title in 2023 where they come up short and lose in a second round performance, right? Like, again, it's not bad, right? They're not in a horrible spot. When you're getting deep into a second round series, you're not getting over the hump, but you still played a really good playoffs for the most part. Everybody can't get to the conference finals. So I'm not looking at everything for Denver as bad right now. But again, when you're consistently falling short after showing that level of peak that we saw in 2023, people are going to look at things as a disappointment just a bit. I'm also interested to see like how this changes people's perspective of Nikola Jokic from an all-time standpoint. I remember when he won that title back in 2023. Again, I thought he was the best player in the league at that point, and I still think he is right now. But there were a lot of hyperbolic statements made about Nikola Jokic from an all-time standpoint that I thought were pretty premature. Right? Like I'm hearing things like he's a top 3 big man of all time already. And he's already the best big man ever after winning this first title. And again, I'm not saying that was universally accepted by basketball fans, but there were enough people saying that. And the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that was, that's cool to say that, but can he repeat this championship success on a consistent basis? Because if we look at all-time greats at this position, like Hakeem Olajuwon, right? Like Shaq, like Wilt Chamberlain, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Bill Russell. These guys were able to win multiple. They were able to show a level of consistency on the championship level. So were we too quick to start crowning Nikola Jokic and putting him in certain conversations after winning that first title? We did a very similar thing with Giannis. I remember there are a lot of really extreme statements people were making about Giannis after he won in 2021. And with the Bucks just not seeing that level of success again since then, I'm not hearing as many all-time conversations for Giannis. And I'm not downplaying him. I'm not downplaying Jokic. But it does make me wonder, how much do we really need to overreact to guys after they're winning their first championships? Because we've done it a ton. We've thrown these guys into all-time conversations after winning their first a lot post 2019. The furthest I'll go is by saying this guy wins a championship. He's the best player in the league, right? Like that was like an up and down thing. It happened with Kawhi when he won in 2019. It happened with Curry when he won in 2022. It happened with Jokic when he won in 2023. And obviously, as I mentioned, it happened with Giannis in 2021. I'm not opposed to opening that conversation because, again, I've said it a million times. The league is very wide open, right? You have a lot of players shuffling in and out of these top 5 and top 3 conversations. That's the furthest I'll go. But like throwing these guys into these all-time conversations after winning their first, it's a trend that's happened and has gone on a lot since 2019. And I think we need to calm down on it just a bit, because for a lot of these guys that we started throwing into like these top 15, top 10 conversations, we just have not seen them repeat that championship success season in and season out. And I'm not downplaying any championship. To win one championship is a very, very difficult thing to do. There's a process behind it all. It's not something that we can diminish at all as fans. But one thing that separates a lot of guys from a historical context is their ability to consistently get at that level and win at that level for a number of years. That's something that Jokic hasn't proven just yet. And while I still think he is the best player in the league right now, I do think we need to reposition and change our perspective of him from an all-time standpoint. But back to OKC, amazing stuff in the postseason here. Love their commitment to their defense-first style of play, and also how they've been able to match that with elite-level offense. Great play, not just from SGA, but from guys like J-Dub and Isaiah Hartenstein, who's been so good. That's another trade for them that aged very well. You get this versatile big man who has amazing touch, can play well in the pick and roll, out of the short roll, can defend, can pass. Like, every move they made in the offseason aged well. There wasn't one offseason move where you look at it like, that didn't work. Not one. So amazing front office work by Sam Presti and that entire team. And they are set up for a very interesting Western Conference Finals matchup. And we'll see how everything ends up panning out by the time this series rolls around.